Have you ever noticed how your calmness makes some people uneasy? It's strange, isn't it? You don't yell, you don't argue, you don't even need to prove anything. Yet somehow, your silence feels louder than their words. They mock you for being too quiet. They say you don't care enough, that you should speak up more. But deep down, they're unsettled by something they can't name. Because when you stay calm, they lose the control they thought they had over you. That's what they fear. Not your anger, not your mistakes, but your peace. Because peace can't be manipulated. And calmness, true calmness, shows them they can't touch your center. In a world that feeds on reaction, your silence is rebellion. It's your refusal to be pulled into chaos. And that, my friend, terrifies people who live off noise. In this video, we're going to explore why that happens, why your calmness has power, why it unsettles those who can't control their emotions, and how Stoic philosophy has known this truth for over 2,000 years. But more importantly, we'll talk about how you can protect that calm, how to stay unshaken even when the world around you keeps testing your patience. Because here's something few people ever realize: the calm ones are not passive. They're precise. They choose their energy carefully. They understand that not every battle deserves attention, and not every insult deserves a reaction. At the end of this episode, we'll uncover one simple Stoic practice, a technique Marcus Aurelius himself used every day to remain composed even when surrounded by chaos. And once you understand it, you'll see why calm people hold more power than anyone who tries to provoke them. So stay with me, because this isn't just about staying calm. It's about learning how peace becomes your greatest weapon. You see, we live in a time where everyone wants a reaction. People online post just to get attention. Co-workers push your buttons to test your limits. Even loved ones sometimes mistake your calm for indifference. But what they don't see is how much strength it takes not to react. How many battles you've already fought in silence. How many storms you've survived without anyone noticing. The truth is, you've already mastered something rare. A kind of strength that doesn't scream for recognition. The kind that's born from self-control, from learning how to breathe when others are shouting, how to think clearly when emotions run wild. That's Stoicism in motion. Not coldness, but clarity. Not weakness, but wisdom. So if you've ever been called emotionless or accused of not caring enough, this video is for you. Because I want you to understand the beauty of that calm, the power behind it, and why those who can't control themselves will always be threatened by those who can. This isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming unshakable. And by the end of this journey, you will see exactly what the Stoics meant when they said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Calmness isn't just about staying quiet. It's about staying free. Free from the chaos that others try to pull you into. Free from the emotional games people play. And free from the invisible wars happening inside your own head. Think about how society works today. Everywhere you look, the news, social media, even casual conversations, there's noise. Constant opinions, endless outrage, people shouting over each other just to be heard. And in that storm, the calm person becomes a mirror. Your peace reflects their restlessness. Your silence exposes their lack of control. That's why they push harder, raise their voices, or try to make you react. Because deep down, your calm reminds them of what they've lost: self-mastery. In modern life, this plays out in countless ways. At work, when you refuse to gossip or panic under pressure, co-workers assume you're detached. In relationships, when you stay calm during conflict, some partners accuse you of being cold. Online, when you don't join the noise, people call you apathetic. But what they don't understand is that your calmness isn't disconnection, it's discipline. And this is where Stoic philosophy comes in. because more than 2,000 years ago, the Stoics were already describing the same kind of strength we're talking about today. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's the foundation of everything we're exploring today. How calmness isn't weakness. It's proof that you've stopped letting external chaos dictate your inner peace. There's a quiet kind of courage that lives in people who stay calm. It's not the type that shows up in loud victories or dramatic speeches. It's the kind that appears in moments when everything feels uncertain, and yet you remain still. Imagine this. You're in a meeting and someone takes credit for your work. You could argue, you could lash out, you could make it a scene, but instead, you take a breath, observe, and decide it's not worth losing your peace over. To many, that looks like weakness, but in truth, that's mastery. The kind that Marcus Aurelius and Seneca spoke of when they described apatheia, the stoic state of being undisturbed by what's outside your control. In Canada's modern workplace culture, one that values politeness yet hides quiet competition. This ability to stay composed is rare. People equate calmness with passivity, yet they fail to see the deep intelligence behind restraint. Because every time you don't react, you send a message. I decide what deserves my energy. This is the message that unsettles others. Your calm presence reminds them that true strength doesn't shout. It doesn't beg to be understood. It simply is, and here's the truth that's often overlooked. Calmness doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you've learned how to feel everything without letting it consume you. It's emotional precision, not emotional absence. That's the kind of calm we'll explore in this episode. Not silence out of fear, but silence out of power. Every generation faces its own kind of noise. For the Stoics, it was political chaos, exile, betrayal. For us, it's information overload, social pressure, and the constant demand to perform, to react instantly. Notifications, arguments, and opinions follow us everywhere. In this environment, calmness becomes the radical act. To stay grounded while everything around you screams for attention is almost revolutionary, because calmness means you've reclaimed ownership of your inner space, the one thing no one else should control. And maybe that's why, in today's culture, calm people are misunderstood. We're told to be authentic, to express ourselves, to speak our truth. But somewhere along the way, expression became confusion. People forgot that not reacting can also be a form of strength, a way of staying true to yourself. When Seneca wrote, "He who angers you conquers you," he wasn't talking about being emotionless. He meant that every time you lose your calm, you hand over power to someone else. You let their chaos dictate your rhythm. And that's exactly how most people get trapped. Not by what happens to them, but by how they respond. So in this episode, we'll learn how calmness becomes your protection. We'll break down what the Stoics knew about self-control, and how you can use their wisdom to stay steady in the modern storm. Because when you master calmness, you stop living in reaction and start living with intention. Calmness, when seen through the Stoic lens, is not the absence of emotion, it's emotional discipline. It's learning how to feel deeply, yet act wisely. The Stoics believed that emotions themselves were not the enemy. It was our attachment to them, our impulsive reactions, that caused suffering. Take Epictetus, for example. He once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That single line has outlived embers, because it reveals a universal truth. Peace begins the moment you stop letting external forces pull you apart. In modern life, that might mean staying calm when someone criticizes you online. It might mean refusing to argue with a colleague who twists your words. Or it might mean choosing not to chase closure in a relationship that has already drained you. Every time you do that, you protect your calm. and in doing so, you protect your power. Here's the irony: the calmer you become, the more intimidating you appear. Because people who can't control themselves see your stillness as judgment. They project their own chaos onto you. They need noise to feel alive, and your silence makes them face what they've been avoiding, their own inner storm. That's why, in today's society, calmness is so rare and so necessary. It's the antidote to overstimulation, the quiet strength that separates those who are reactive from those who are in control of their own narrative. And in this episode, that's exactly what we'll uncover: how to build this kind of inner stillness, step by step, until nothing external can disturb your peace. If you've ever tried to stay calm in a heated moment, you know how hard it is. It's easy to preach calmness when life is comfortable, but when someone disrespects you, lies about you, or tests your boundaries, calmness feels impossible. That's when Stoicism becomes more than philosophy. It becomes practice. Marcus Aurelius wasn't calm because his life was peaceful. He was calm despite it being chaotic. He faced betrayal, war, loss, and illness. Yet he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." That's what made him unshakable. He understood that calmness isn't a reaction to peace. It's the foundation that creates peace. In modern Canada, where life often feels like a balance between pressure and politeness, this idea hits home. You can live in one of the most peaceful countries in the world and still feel mentally overwhelmed. Calmness here doesn't mean retreating into isolation. It means carrying stability into a world that's constantly moving. When people around you are stressed, your calm presence becomes an anchor. It reminds them of what's possible, that not every problem needs panic, and not every silence hides weakness. Some silences are full of power, and the more you embrace that truth, the less approval you'll need from anyone who mistakes your calm for emptiness. Because the truth is, calm people often carry invisible weight. They've learned, often through pain, that peace must be protected, not granted. Every calm person you meet has a story behind their stillness. They've been through noise, arguments that went nowhere, people who drained their energy, and moments that tested their patience until it broke. And somewhere in those experiences, they learned that peace is not found. It's built. That's why Stoic calmness feels different. It's not detached or indifferent. It's forged in reflection, through learning how to pause before responding. When Epictetus taught his students, he said, "No great thing is created suddenly." That includes calmness. It's a craft, one built over time, through restraint, understanding, and self-awareness. In today's world, calm people seem out of place. We celebrate those who speak fast, move fast, and react fast. But the Stoics would argue that true progress happens when you learn how to slow down. Because if your mind is restless, no amount of speed will bring you peace. Here in Canada, where life feels quietly competitive, success measured by subtle comparisons and constant motion, staying calm can feel almost rebellious. When you choose patience over reaction, or silence over explanation, you step out of the race. You choose peace over performance. And that choice confuses people who think noise equals strength. But what they don't understand is this: the calm ones aren't behind, they're ahead. Because they've learned how to move with purpose, not panic. Calmness is not about escaping the world. It's about learning how to move through it with steadiness. When Marcus Aurelius led armies, he wasn't sitting on a mountain meditating. He was in the heart of the storm, yet his thoughts remained clear, his reactions measured. That's the kind of calm we're talking about here. Not stillness born from distance, but stillness maintained within chaos. And that's what this episode will help you uncover. We're going to explore 3 layers of calmness, each one rooted in Stoic wisdom, yet deeply relevant to our modern lives. First, we'll look at why your calmness intimidates others, not because it's threatening, but because it reveals what they lack: control, clarity, and presence. Second, we'll break down how to protect that calm, even when people try to shake it, by learning the Stoic dichotomy of control, the ancient practice of separating what's yours to influence from what's not. And third, we'll end with how calmness becomes power, the quiet kind of strength that lets you lead, decide, and live with intention without needing validation or noise. This isn't a lesson, it's a reflection, a space for you to breathe, to understand yourself better, and to remember that calmness isn't something you wait for. It's something you create. So as we move forward, keep this thought close. The calm person doesn't win by being louder. They win by being unmoved. Because in a world full of storms, the one who remains still becomes the eye of it. Have you ever noticed how people get uncomfortable when you stay calm during chaos? It's almost as if your silence exposes something inside them, a restlessness they can't escape. When everyone around you reacts instantly, your stillness feels unnatural to them. They expect you to argue, defend, justify. But when you don't, they lose their script. Because calmness is not what they prepared for. When you don't fight back, they can't feed on your reaction. When you don't panic, their chaos feels pointless. And when you remain steady, it makes them question their own control. This is the hidden truth most people never talk about. Calmness reveals character, not just yours, but theirs too. In your presence, their insecurities have nowhere to hide. That's why your peace feels threatening. It's not aggression, it's reflection. You become a mirror showing them how far they are from self-mastery. Seneca once said, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." What he meant was simple. The moment you pause before reacting, you regain power. That pause, that breath, is what scares people the most. Because it shows them you're not ruled by impulse. You've reached a level of strength that can't be provoked, and in a world addicted to reaction, that's terrifying. People who thrive on control often rely on emotional chaos to keep others off balance. They provoke, interrupt, or twist words, not because they're confident, but because they're afraid of silence. Silence forces truth to surface, and calmness, especially when it's unshaken, becomes unbearable for those who manipulate through emotion. That's why your calmness feels dangerous to them. They can't win the way they used to. They can't guilt you into reacting, can't pull you into endless justifications. And without your reaction, their power disappears. Think about it. When you stay calm, you change the rhythm of the entire situation. The argument slows down, the noise fades, the game ends. Because manipulation depends on momentum, emotional speed, and you stop it with a single pause. That's the moment when fear appears on their face. Not fear of you, but fear of losing control over you. Marcus Aurelius described this perfectly. The best revenge is to be unlike your enemy. When others come at you with chaos, and you respond with composure, you don't just win the moment, you redefine it. Your calm becomes their mirror, and they're forced to see themselves clearly for the first time. That's why calmness is not passive. It's active strength, the art of choosing peace when war is expected. Calmness disrupts the emotional pattern people are used to. Most arguments, power struggles, or manipulative tactics follow a script. Attack, defend, escalate. But when you refuse to play your part, the script falls apart. You stop being predictable, and unpredictability terrifies people who rely on emotional control. They start to wonder, why isn't this working? They push harder, get louder, or act more dramatic, but nothing lands. Because you're no longer in the same emotional arena. You've stepped out of the game entirely. That's what Stoics call rational detachment. Not indifference, but clarity. It's when your emotions serve your values, not your impulses. You see the situation, you feel it, but you don't drown in it. You become the eye of the storm, still, centered, and unshakable. And here's the paradox. The calmer you are, the more powerful you seem. People start to mistake your calm for confidence, and they're right. Because true confidence doesn't need to be performed. It doesn't need to convince. It simply exists. In Canadian culture, where emotional restraint is often seen as politeness, Stoic calmness goes even deeper. It's not just manners, it's mastery. It's choosing peace not because it's expected, but because it's intelligent. That's the calm that intimidates people, the kind that isn't forced, but earned. There's something deeply unsettling about a person who won't be moved by chaos. When others shout, you listen. When they insult, you stay composed. When they try to provoke, you simply observe. And in that stillness, they begin to feel powerless, because they can't find the version of you that reacts. In truth, your calmness strips away their illusion of control. It exposes their dependence on your emotions to feel validated. Most people don't realize how much of their identity is built on reaction. They need opposition to feel alive. So when you don't give it to them, they're left face to face with their own emptiness. Seneca warned about this centuries ago when he said, "He who does wrong to himself." Every time someone tries to pull you into their emotional chaos, they're revealing the war within them. And every time you stay calm, you remind them that peace is possible, but only through discipline, not dominance. This is why calmness feels like a threat. It challenges the emotional economy people live by. In a society where drama equals attention and outrage equals importance, your calm becomes rebellion. It breaks the system. You show that stability is louder than anger, and that terrifies those who need noise to feel significant. Your calm is a quiet kind of leadership. It doesn't command, it inspires. Calmness has gravity. It pulls everything towards stillness. That's why when you walk into a tense room and remain composed, people notice. They may not understand it, but they feel it. That quiet steadiness that changes the atmosphere without saying a word. It's what Epictetus meant when he said, "No man is free who is not master of himself," because once you master your emotions, you no longer orbit around others. They begin to orbit around you. This subtle shift in power unnerves people. They can't figure out why they lose balance around you. Your calm disarms them. It forces them to slow down. And slowing down is uncomfortable for those who live through constant reaction. But here's the beauty of it. Calmness doesn't just protect you, it elevates you. It's the quality that allows leaders, parents, partners, and thinkers to navigate chaos without becoming part of it. In Canada's fast-paced yet quietly competitive culture, that ability stands out. People who stay calm aren't seen as detached anymore. They're seen as dependable, because calmness signals control, and control builds trust. And that's the paradox that scares those who thrive on emotion. The more they try to break your peace, the more your peace exposes their weakness. They come to realize that anger burns quickly, but calmness endures. The Stoics understood this. The storm is temporary, but stillness lasts forever. There's an undeniable power in the person who can stay centered while everything else falls apart. It's not just emotional control, it's spiritual strength. Because to remain calm when provoked means you've already defeated your biggest enemy, your own ego. Most people respond from ego. They need to prove they're right, to win, to be seen. But when you're calm, you've already outgrown that game. You no longer seek validation in chaos. You choose peace, not because it's easy, but because it's wise. That wisdom unsettles people. They can't read you, they can't predict you, and what they can't predict, they can't control. Your calmness becomes a mystery, and in a world obsessed with explaining everything, Mystery feels dangerous. Marcus Aurelius called this the discipline of perception, seeing things as they are, not as your emotions paint them. You start to see anger as a reflection of pain, manipulation as insecurity, and conflict as fear-wearing armor. When you view life that way, you stop reacting. You start understanding. And understanding ends the cycle of chaos. So yes, your calmness scares them, not because it's threatening, but because it's free. You've escaped the emotional prison most people live in. You've learned to stand still in the storm, while others still chase thunder. And that, my friend, is why calmness is not just strength, it's liberation. Let's be honest, calm people are often misunderstood. They're called emotionless, detached, or even weak. But the truth is, calmness is not the absence of power. It's the highest expression of it. Because anyone can explode. Anyone can shout when frustrated, or argue when offended. But it takes real strength to stay composed, especially when you're right and still choose peace. That's not weakness, that's mastery. Seneca once wrote, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." And that's exactly what calmness is, proof. Proof that you faced adversity, and instead of letting it harden you, you've learned to transform it. You see, calmness doesn't mean you don't feel anger or sadness. It means you've trained those emotions not to control you. It's self-command, the kind of inner authority that can't be faked. People who confuse calmness for indifference simply haven't learned what control looks like. Because control, in its purest form, doesn't shout. It doesn't need validation. It's quiet, steady, and deeply aware. That's why calm people seem mysterious. They're not detached, they're disciplined. And discipline, not dominance, is where true power begins. When people mistake your calmness for weakness, it's usually because they can't imagine strength without aggression. We live in a culture that equates loudness with confidence, speed with competence, and dominance with leadership. But Stoic philosophy teaches the opposite. That true power doesn't announce itself. It's quiet, grounded, unbothered. Marcus Aurelius ruled the largest empire on earth. Yet he wrote more about humility and patience than victory. He knew that control over others means little if you haven't mastered control over yourself. And that's what calmness really is, control turned inward. A calm mind can't be manipulated, and that's what makes it dangerous to those who rely on chaos to feel important. Think about it. A calm person doesn't need to prove their worth. They don't chase applause or fight for validation. They move with purpose, not panic. And in that stillness, they command respect, not through intimidation, but through consistency. In Canada, where success is often tied to quiet diligence and restraint, calmness becomes a mark of maturity. It's not the loud leader who inspires trust, but the steady one, the person who remains stable when everyone else loses focus. So when someone calls your calmness weakness, smile. Because what they're really saying is, I don't understand that kind of strength yet. Here's something few people realize. Calmness is active, not passive. It's not about sitting back and doing nothing. It's about choosing your response instead of being dragged by impulse. That takes more effort, not less. Think about it this way. When someone yells at you, it's easy to yell back. It takes no discipline to react. But when you stop, breathe, and decide how to respond, that's strength in motion. That pause is the muscle Stoicism trains. Epictetus taught his students, no man is free unless he can control himself. He understood that freedom isn't just political or financial. It's emotional. If your peace depends on how others act, you're not free. But if you can stay calm in the face of anything, you become untouchable. This is what people misunderstand about calm individuals. They're not disengaged. They're discerning. They've learned when to speak, when to act, and when silence is more powerful than any argument. They pick their battles carefully because they've seen what happens when you fight everyone. You lose yourself in the process. So the next time someone mistakes your calm for indifference, remember, you're not avoiding conflict. You're mastering it. You're choosing not to let temporary emotion destroy permanent peace. And that choice, repeated daily, is how calmness evolves into power. Calmness also demands courage. The courage to look foolish in a world that worships reaction. Because when you choose peace, people will test it. They'll poke, provoke, and even misjudge you, thinking they can draw you into their storm. But calmness doesn't mean you're blind. It means you refuse to be baited. You know exactly what's happening. You just won't give them what they want. That kind of restraint unnerves people because it removes their power to define you. They can call you distant, arrogant, or cold. But deep down, they feel your strength. Because nothing frustrates a manipulator more than a person they can't control. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but your estimate of it. When you absorb that truth, your whole relationship with conflict changes. You stop personalizing everything. You begin to see anger as weakness disguised as noise, gossip as insecurity in disguise, and conflict as misplaced emotion. And once you understand that, the world loses its grip on you. No insult can reach you. No chaos can shake you, because calmness becomes your armor, invisible but unbreakable. People think calmness isolates you, but in reality, it connects you to clarity, to purpose, to peace. It allows you to stand tall, even when everything around you falls apart. Calmness is the kind of strength that doesn't need an audience. It's not performed, it's practiced. You cultivate it in private, in those quiet moments when life tests your patience and no one is watching. That's when calmness becomes real. When you choose not to send that angry message, when you pause before answering a harsh email, when you walk away instead of proving a point. Each of those small acts is a declaration of mastery, and over time, they build something stronger than ego. They build character. Seneca once said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Every test of your patience is polishing you. Every moment you choose calmness over chaos is shaping the kind of person others will trust, and even quietly admire. In Canada, this form of strength often goes unnoticed. People are quick to praise efficiency, ambition, or innovation, but rarely patience. Yet the calm ones are the ones who lead the best teams, raise grounded children, and endure life's setbacks without breaking. Because they understand that power isn't about forcing outcomes, it's about staying composed while outcomes unfold. The calm person doesn't resist life. They cooperate with it. They understand that control isn't about domination, it's about direction. That's the hidden wisdom behind every unshaken mind. There's a certain radiance that calm people carry. A quiet confidence that doesn't need to be announced. It's not pride, it's peace. Because when you faced enough storms, you stop needing to prove that you can survive them. You simply walk through the rain, knowing it will pass. That's what the Stoics meant by power. Not the ability to control others, but the ability to control yourself. When you master calmness, you stop reacting to life and start responding to it. Your emotions stop dictating your choices. You become intentional, steady, deliberate, precise, and that steadiness makes people trust you. They know that no matter what happens, you won't crumble under pressure. That's leadership, not the loud kind that commands attention, but the quiet kind that earns respect. In truth, calmness is the bridge between wisdom and strength. It connects knowledge with action, not with integrity. Because you can read every philosophy book in the world, but if you lose your calm when tested, it means you haven't learned control. You've only memorized it. So the next time someone mistakes your calm for weakness, let them. You don't need to convince anyone, because while they're burning their energy proving a point, you're saving yours for the things that matter. And that's what separates power from noise. Power endures, noise fades. Let's be real. Staying calm sounds noble until someone tests you, until someone talks behind your back, until someone takes advantage of your kindness, or throws words meant to wound. That's when calmness becomes less of an idea and more of a test. And yet, this is exactly where Stoicism shines. Because the Stoics didn't talk about peace in theory. They lived it while surrounded by chaos. They weren't sitting in quiet gardens. They were soldiers, leaders, slaves, and philosophers facing betrayal, loss, and war. Their calm was forged in fire. So, how do we build that same calmness today, when people still provoke, manipulate, and misunderstand us? The Stoics left us a roadmap, 3 lessons that, if practiced, can make you nearly unshakable. Lesson 1. The dichotomy of control. Learn what's yours to influence, and let go of what's not. Lesson 2. The power of perception. Realize that nothing has meaning until you assign it one. Lesson 3. The discipline of response. You can't always choose what happens, but you can always choose who you'll be when it does. Let's go through these one by one, not as abstract ideas, but as tools for daily life. Because calmness isn't about being unaffected. It's about being in control even when you are affected. Lesson 1. The dichotomy of control. If there's one principle that defines Stoicism, it's this: some things are within our control and some are not. That truth sounds simple, but it's everything. Think about how much energy we waste trying to change what we can't. We replay conversations, overanalyze what people think, or obsess over outcomes that are already gone. It's like trying to stop the wind with your hands. Exhausting and pointless. Epictetus taught this first rule to his students as the foundation of peace. He said, happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control. Others are not. What's within your control? Your thoughts, your actions, your attitude. What's not? Other people's opinions, their reactions, all the random turns of fate. Here's the paradox. The more you accept your limits, the freer you become. Because you stop fighting reality. You stop trying to control the uncontrollable. Imagine someone criticizing you unfairly. Your instinct might be to argue, to correct them, to make them see your side. But that's their perception, not your responsibility. You can clarify once if needed. But beyond that, peace lies in release. Because your energy belongs to what you can change. Your response, your mindset, your conduct. In Canada's culture of quiet resilience, this principle fits naturally. Control what's within reach. Let go of what's beyond it. That's how you remain calm even when life refuses to cooperate. Lesson 2. The power of perception. Nothing in life has meaning until you get one. That's not denial, that's power. Because between what happens and how you feel about it, there's always a gap. And inside that gap lies your freedom. Marcus Aurelius wrote, if you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your judgment about it. He wasn't saying pain isn't real. He was saying perspective decides how long it lasts. Two people can experience the same event. One breaks, the other grows. The difference isn't what happened, it's how they saw it. When someone insults you, your perception shapes the wound. You can take it as truth and bleed emotionally for days, or you can see it as noise, just a reflection of who they are, not who you are. The moment you stop taking things personally, calmness takes root. Perception doesn't change reality, but it changes your reality. That's what gives calm people their quiet power. They don't let external events rewrite their internal story. They pause, reinterpret, and choose a view that keeps their peace intact. In a society obsessed with being understood, perception is your secret weapon. Because the more you need others to see things your way, the more they control you. But when you master perception, nothing external can own your emotions again. The Stoics believed that your response defines your reality more than the event itself. You can't always control what comes your way: betrayal, stress, criticism. But you always control what comes out of you. That's where true calmness is tested. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That single line contains the entire blueprint for emotional strength. Every day, you're faced with tiny moments of choice: to react or to respond. Reaction is instinct. Response is wisdom. When someone attacks you, reacting feels natural. It's fast, emotional, defensive. But responding requires pause. It means choosing clarity over chaos. You take a breath, you think, and you act in alignment with your values, not your anger. That's discipline, and it's not easy. It takes training, repetition, and self-awareness. But the payoff is peace that no one can take from you. In modern life, especially in Canadian culture where composure is admired but rarely practiced deeply, this discipline becomes a quiet superpower. It keeps you steady in workplace politics, calm in family conflict, and centered when the world feels heavy. Because when you master your response, you master your destiny. You stop being a product of circumstances and start becoming a creator of outcomes. It's one thing to understand calmness. It's another to live it. Philosophy becomes real only when it's practiced in the smallest moments of your day. You don't need a temple or a meditation retreat. You just need awareness, the ability to catch yourself before your emotions take the lead. Here's how you can begin. Every morning, ask yourself, what can I control today? And what can't I? Write it down if you can. This simple act separates clarity from chaos. When life surprises you later, you will already know which battles deserve your energy. The Stoics believed in the power of delay. When emotions rise, give them space to breathe before you respond. That 5-second pause can change everything. The tone of your voice, the direction of a conversation, even your entire day. When something annoys you, traffic, criticism, delay, remind yourself, this is practice. Every irritation becomes training for composure. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this teaching me? Over time, these small adjustments rewire your instincts. You stop chasing control and start embodying it. That's how calmness grows, not through perfection, but through repetition. The Stoics didn't try to escape life's noise. They learned how to walk through it with quiet strength. Every day ends with two choices: to carry the weight of it into tomorrow, or to let it go. The Stoics chose the second. They ended each night with reflection, not rumination. It was their way of resetting the mind, polishing the soul, and keeping calmness alive. Marcus Aurelius did this daily. In meditations, he often wrote as if speaking to himself, reviewing what went well, what could have been better, and how he could improve tomorrow. This wasn't guilt, it was growth. A gentle, honest check-in with his own mind. You can do the same. Before bed, take a few minutes in silence and ask, what disturbed my peace today? Did I respond or react? What will I do differently next time? Write your answers down. Then forgive yourself for every moment you fell short. That forgiveness is part of calmness too. Because peace isn't about perfection. It's about returning to balance, again and again. In a world that demands constant motion, ending your day with stillness is an act of rebellion. It's you saying, I don't need to carry the noise anymore. Do this for a week and you'll notice something shift. You'll wake up lighter, steadier, more in tune with yourself. That's not coincidence, That's calmness becoming who you are. Let's take a step back. We've explored a lot, from why calmness unsettles others, to how it becomes your quiet weapon in a noisy world. And if there's one truth that threads through it all, it's this: calmness is not an emotion. It's a decision. Every day, you're given countless opportunities to choose peace over reaction. The angry email, the impatient driver, the person who misunderstands your silence and projects their chaos onto you. These moments don't define you. Your response does. The Stoics knew this long before we had social media, deadlines, or burnout. They lived in chaos too. War, politics, betrayal. Yet they found peace not by escaping the world, but by mastering how they moved through it. That's what Stoicism is at its core. Not detachment, but direction. It's the ability to stand firm in a world built to pull you apart. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Know where you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul." That's the power you've been building all along. Not the ability to control others, but the discipline to control yourself. Because when you master that, no chaos can touch you. Calmness, when you think about it, is a form of self-respect. It's how you tell the world, my energy is not up for a negotiation. You stop giving emotional access to people who haven't earned it. You stop letting circumstances dictate your inner weather. You choose, consciously, what deserves your attention and what doesn't. That's not coldness. That's clarity. And clarity is a privilege that only comes with practice. Remember the first Stoic lesson, the dichotomy of control. Once you truly understand that most things are beyond your influence, life stops feeling like a battle. You start conserving energy. You start observing instead of overreacting. And you begin to realize peace isn't something you find at the end of chaos. It's what you bring into it. Then comes the power of perception. You start to see things differently. What used to feel like an insult now feels like information. What once triggered you now teaches you. Perception changes pain into perspective, and perspective transforms you into something unshakable. And finally, the discipline of response. That's where your true growth shows. Because when you can respond thoughtfully, even when others are careless, you stop being reactive and start being radiant. That's what calmness really is. Light contained in composure. Quiet, but unmistakably powerful. Calmness doesn't mean life gets easier. It means you get stronger. You stop expecting the world to quiet down and instead, you learn to quiet yourself. Because peace is not the absence of noise, but the mastery of your own volume. There will always be chaos, people misunderstanding you, challenges testing your patience, and moments where your control slips. But that's where Stoic strength shows its face, not in perfection, but in recovery. You notice the disturbance, breathe, and return to center. That single act, that return, is what separates the calm from the chaotic. In Canada, where life often moves in polite silence yet hides 1,000 quiet anxieties underneath, this lesson feels especially personal. It reminds us that composure is not about suppressing emotion. It's about expressing it consciously. You can be calm and still feel deeply. You can be quiet and still care deeply. The difference is direction, where you let that energy go. Because calmness isn't about disengaging from the world. It's about engaging with it wisely. It's knowing when to speak, when to listen, and when silence says more than words ever could. When you reach that level, peace stops being something you chase. It becomes who you are. When you look back, every challenge that once shook you was really training for calmness. Life has been teaching you, quietly, how to hold your center through disappointment, through misunderstanding, through loss. And if you listen closely, you'll notice something remarkable. The calm you have now is the peace you once prayed for. That's why Stoicism endures, not because it's old, but because it's timeless. It doesn't promise a life without pain. It offers a way to face it with grace. It doesn't remove chaos. It teaches you how to remain whole inside it. The Stoics didn't live apart from the world. They lived above its noise, and that's what this journey has been about. Rising above, not by force, but by understanding. You're not becoming distant. You're becoming deliberate. You're learning that the calmest person in the room is usually the one in control, not because they dominate others, but because they've mastered themselves. So tonight, or whenever you finish this episode, I want you to take one deep breath, and as you exhale, remember, calmness isn't what makes you passive, it's what makes you powerful. You don't need to prove it, you just need to live it. Because in the end, the strongest voice you'll ever have is the one that doesn't need to raise itself to be heard. If this message spoke to you, take a moment before the noise of life pulls you back in. Let this stillness settle, the kind of quiet that feels heavy and alive at the same time. Because what you just practiced, by listening all the way here, is calmness itself. You slowed down, you breathed, you reflected. That's more powerful than you realize. The world will test you again. It always does. Someone will say something unfair. Plans will change without warning, and emotions will rise, asking for your attention. But when that happens, remember this: you've already learned how to pause. You've already learned how to choose. That's what Stoicism really trains. Not a perfect life, but a practiced one. One where you meet every challenge with awareness, not panic. Where you measure your response before your words. Where your calmness becomes a signal, not of distance, but of mastery. And if this philosophy resonates with you, if you're ready to build that strength in your own life, then stay with us here at StoicCraft, because this space isn't about teaching, it's about remembering the wisdom you already carry inside you. We explore these ancient principles not as theories, but as tools for modern life, for the boardroom, for the kitchen table, for the quiet moments at night when your thoughts grow loud. Together, we're learning how to turn chaos into clarity, emotion into direction, and silence into power. So before you leave, take one small action. If this episode helped you, hit like so it reaches someone who needs it tonight. Subscribe so you don't forget to return here, to this quiet space where philosophy meets real life. And share in the comments, when was the last time you chose calm over reaction? Your story might be the reason someone else learns to breathe again. Because in a world that glorifies noise, choosing calm isn't easy, but it's sacred. And those who master it don't just survive life, they elevate it. Until next time, stay steady, stay grounded, and remember, your calmness doesn't make you invisible. It makes you unforgettable.